This is going to be an update video from the shooting that happened at Central Michigan University a couple days ago involving James Eric Davis. Now, this is a mugshot of him. Of course, the first original picture that I posted up of him was him sitting on a counter and he was smiling. Now, I know in that video I was being utterly sarcastic, and that was before I really knew all of the information. All I knew was that a shooting had occurred, 2 people were shot and killed, and that was about it. But over the course of maybe less than a day since I did that video, it came out who he had shot and killed. Now, of course, in that video, I was being more sarcastic, but with this one, I want to be a little bit more serious. But I also wanted to point out one major thing that I had noticed when I was reading a few articles. So the update that occurred since then that came out was that the 2 people he had killed were his parents. And I'm going to pull up a picture of them. As a matter of fact, let me pull up their picture right now. These are his parents right here. Let me see if I can pull up a bigger picture. Okay, there they are. James Davis Sr. and Diva Davis. As you can see, his dad was a cop, and I'm not sure exactly what his mother did as a profession. But yeah, it said that he killed both of his parents. Now, they still don't know what the motive was to why he killed his parents. But it also came out that he was in the hospital the day before the shooting happened because he was under the influence of some drugs and some other stuff. And they said it caused him to act erratic and everything like that. So my guess is he might have still been under the influence of these drugs that he was on, and he didn't quite shake it. I mean, if he had just went in the hospital the day before, then him coming out the next day, he most likely wasn't completely treated. So that's probably what happened. And my guess is, because it was right around they said that it had something to do with spring break. I'm not entirely sure what the schedule is for that school as far as spring break goes, but I do know most colleges have spring break earlier in the month of March. Maybe the early first week, maybe mid, or not mid, but like going into the first week or second week of March, from my experience. And they just said that he shot and killed him. Now, he ended up having to go back to the hospital because, you know, they still found like the drugs and stuff was in his system. So he might have had some serious high or adrenaline rush. I'm not entirely sure that led him to do what he did. But anyway, the next update that came through was that he has been charged for murder, pretty much a double murder because he killed both of his parents. And he has a bond that's set at $3 million. Now, before I get to the major part right here, let me pull up another image that I came across. Hold on. This right here is a picture of James Eric Davis and his brother, Russell Matthew Davis, his older brother. Now, this is something that I rarely ever see when it comes to black people, and that is family being on code. This guy could have easily shunned his brother and said that his brother deserves whatever happens to him. He needs to be in jail. He doesn't need help or any type of rehabilitation. I'm going to read to you a quote from an article that I read. It says, "Never thought I'd have to post this type of post, but unfortunately the news is true. My mom and dad both rest from their life of labor and stress in a very tragic event. It's so surreal, I'm in shock and even in denial. It's a hard pill to swallow, a heavy load to bear. I can't wrap my mind around this nor make any sense of this, but 3 things I want you to know. I love my mama and my dad. I'm going to miss them. I still love my brother. I want him safe, supported, and I pray for just like my sister Alexis Davis and I. And I still believe God. I'm in pursuit of this doctorate, a doctorate in faith, and this is my examination. I shall continue in everything, give thanks for this in the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning me." He's actually, if you can tell by this, he's going to pretty much, I guess you could say, be a pastor. He says, "One thing I must add to the media and opinionated people, please don't make a villain of my brother. This is not who he is. And despite the circumstances, he's also lost a mother and a father, and I still love him. That part right there, not negating anything else that what he said, that's how he felt. But that part right there, when he says, don't make a villain of my brother, that's not who he is. That is something that a lot of white people do when it comes to their kids. They always say, oh, little Jimmy or little Bobby or little Susie, that's not who they are. Something happened. Shout out to his brother for being on code. Finally, he did not throw his brother under the bus. He knows what his brother did was messed up, but he's not going to get out there in the public eye and throw his brother way under the bus. So these pundits over at CNN or Fox News can take what he says and use it for their own leverage and say, see, he's messed up. He deserves whatever he got going to him. Now, you're probably wondering, what was the one major thing I wanted to mention as it concerns this particular case? Well, in the article that I read, and most likely any other article to follow, not one time, and I want y'all to hear me clearly, not one time did they ever mention anything about him having a mental illness. Not one time did they mention him having a mental illness. Am I surprised? No, I am not. He doesn't have the complexion to warrant him having a mental illness. According to them, he was within his right frame of mind, even though it says that he had drugs in his system. But that still, that negates all of that. I just wanted to point that out. I noticed that immediately when I read just one article. If I saw that in one article, I knew that if I read another article and another article and another article, they wouldn't say it either. Because if you mention it in one, they're going to mention it in the other. If you don't mention it in one, they're not going to mention it in the others. This guy was up into them in his right frame of mind, and he meant to do what he did, and he had no remorse for doing it. Yet we have a whole bunch of mass shooters going around here who are mostly white doing all kinds of stuff, and they said they have a mental illness. That's the first thing that comes out of their mouth. I said that is an insult to the people who actually go through and have mental illnesses. But I have to give a kudos to his brother for staying on code. Condolences to the family, losing, it was a brutal way to go. And this is not me sitting here excusing what he did, because like I said, at the end of the day, it was a fucked up thing to do. It really is. I mean, he killed both of his parents. And I'm gonna try my best to stay on top of this story, because I really would like to know what made him do it. I mean, I know they said it was drugs, but I said it had to be something much more deeper than that. And they say he's currently in the hospital right now, so all the court appearances that he has to make right now until he's released, he has to do it through a hospital bed. Like, he's basically in a hospital bed, handcuffed to a bed, and all the court stuff he has to do is pretty much supervising. I guess they probably talk via some kind of webcam. But if there's anything else to come out about this story, I will be sure to follow it. So I guess this is now another story that's tacked to my list of stories to stay updated on that. This is probably like story number 3 or 4. But y'all let me know what you think down in the comments.